2 years ago, I made a video called the Cloud Engineer Roadmap, and honestly, it did really well. 45,000 of you have watched it. And that really does blow my mind, but here's the thing, if I look at that video now, there are parts of it that are genuinely outdated. They're not slightly outdated, they're properly outdated. And the industry has moved so fast in technology over the past few years. So this is the 2026 version. And I'm not just going to give you this same list with a new slapped on thumbnail, like things have actually really changed. Now, a lot of the skills that I told you about in 2024, they are still very essential. But there are a few that have become way more important and way more important than I expected, and I think a lot of people expected with how things have rapidly changed. And there are some new areas that barely even existed a few years ago, but are now popping up in job adverts all the time. And I'll get into that later on in the video. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm TechToby. I've been working in technology for over 10 years now, most recently the past 4 years in sort of cloud and platform engineering roles. Most of my work is in professional services in like UK national security areas for the public sector. I do also help out some FTSE 100 clients. I'm an AWS community builder and a Wiz MVP. And more importantly for this year, I spent the last year watching the job market shift. So let's talk about what you actually need to know in 2026 to become a cloud engineer. Right, so let's start with the good news. So if you watched my video in 2024, the roadmap, you know the foundations are there and they're really not going to change. So, Linux, networking fundamentals, that stuff really is not wasted on anybody. Now, those skills haven't gone anywhere at all. If anything, they still matter more now because everything is built on top of them. And truthfully, I haven't touched a Windows server. Well, I tell a lie, I have actually touched Windows servers, but like 10% maybe or less. Pretty much 90% of the systems I work on, they run on Linux, and I've maybe utilize 10% of my time towards a Windows server. Probably a lot less. So Linux is still the foundation of basically everything in the cloud. Your containers run on Linux, your Kubernetes nodes run on Linux, your CI/CD runners, they run on Linux, your Lambdas, they run on Linux. It's all Linux under the hood. So much like in the past, comfortability, navigating a terminal, managing file systems, understanding permissions, all these things are still there. They have not changed. And it's the same with networking. Like, I know networking isn't like a very sexy topic. Nobody's making TikToks and YouTube videos about subnet masks. But all the things that are built into cloud systems, like on AWS, for example, security groups, route tables, VPCs, transit gateways, load balancers, learn them properly. Don't skim over them because they're things you're going to be working on pretty much all the time. Now, where things have shifted quite a bit is scripting. Now, in 2024, I said learn PowerShell, Python, Bash. And I think that was fair advice at the time. I personally used PowerShell for years, but when I worked on premises, in a heavy Windows environment, and it got the job done. But if I'm being honest, since moving to cloud, I haven't really used PowerShell at all, I got to be honest. Python is pretty much still the king for scripting. It's the most in-demand programming language across DevOps, platform, cloud engineering roles. You can do a lot with Python. And I do still believe if you are only going to learn one language, make it Python. Now, of course, you can use Bash still and utilize it with CLI, but I think for overall sort of covering a lot of areas, Python would be the one that I would go for. Now, here's what has changed with scripting, and I saw it coming, but not at the rate that it is right now. Golang is coming up a lot. And when I say a lot, I don't mean a lot. Like pretty much every job effort I see now is Python or Golang. Or if you have Python, but you're happy to switch to Golang, we're happy to talk to you in an interview. Now, I guess you want to know what the reason for that is. A lot of cloud-based tooling and ecosystem is written in Golang, like Kubernetes is written in Go. Things like Terraform providers, Prometheus exporters, container runtimes, it's all Golang under the hood. Now, I think if you look at jobs with like startups or startups that are scaling up, like proper tech companies, Go is increasingly listed with Python or without Python. And there are many good reasons for that. Go is a lot faster than Python. It can compile into a single binary. You don't have to worry about virtual environments. It's a very good language and it's still relatively easy to pick up. So here's my actual recommendation, especially on scripting for 2026. Bash for quick automation is fine. If you're doing CLI things, it's absolutely fine. You're going to be learning it anyway whilst learning Linux. As long as you're functional with Bash, you don't really need to be a wizard. But when it comes to Python, that should be your primary language. So being able to write scripts with SDKs for AWS, like with Boto 3, understanding how classes work, error handling, unit testing with PyTest. I would keep that as sort of your baseline and just really stick with it, make it primary. But if you do really want to stand out, you should learn Go. I don't think right now you need to be fluent in Golang. If you're someone like me, you're already in the industry, and you're a bit wary about switching to Go, I don't think you need to be an expert, but it's definitely going to give you an edge. Even more so if you're heading to roles that are Kubernetes heavy. Now, when it comes to PowerShell, look, I'm a little upset about it, to be honest. It was the first sort of language I ever worked on. And I think if you are deep in that Azure, Microsoft 365 type of world, stick to it. But it's just no longer the first thing that I would tell somebody to learn. The industry has just moved on. Now, coming up to sort of the next point, we're going to talk about how the stack has changed. So in 2024, I talked about Terraform, Ansible, Docker, and CI/CD as separate skills in the roadmap, and they still are. But the way companies expect you to use them has shifted quite a lot. Now, just as an example, probably like 2 years ago, a cloud engineer job might have said, experience with Terraform and Docker CI/CD pipelines preferred. That was it. Pretty broad. Now I'm looking at job descriptions and they say things like design and maintain Kubernetes-based platforms with GitOps workflows. Integrate security scanning into CI/CD. Now that's a much more specific, opinionated stack. And there's a reason for that. And I think that catches a lot of people off guard, which I'll come back to in a minute. Terraform is 100% still the dominant IAC. Full stop. Learn modules, learn remote state, learn workspaces. If you're starting out, start with Terraform. To be honest, you'll probably never ever be away from it. But you should also be aware that OpenTofu does exist as a fork of Terraform before the licensing changed. While some companies will use Pulumi because they want to write infrastructure in actual programming languages rather than HCL. So I would say make sure you have awareness of them and know that they exist, but don't get too distracted. It's Terraform first. Now Ansible is still useful. Like when I was using it a couple of years back, I had a lot of fun with Ansible, but its role has shrunk in my opinion. Configuration management matters less when everything runs in containers. You will see it in environments with sort of legacy servers or hybrid setups, but it's no longer the priority it was. And at the time, the company I was working at, we still had a lot of sysadmins working for us, and they used Ansible quite a lot for configuration management. And to be honest, a lot of the things that you can do in Ansible are just automated by cloud services now. Now, containers and Kubernetes, this is where the biggest shift has happened. Docker was already important in 2024, but Kubernetes has gone kind of from like a nice to have to you will be asked about this in interviews. And I'm not exaggerating, almost every senior cloud or platform engineering interview I've seen in the last year, whether that's from people in my Discord community or myself, has had a Kubernetes component. So those sort of like core knowledges over services, ingress, RBAC, debugging, crash loopback, Helm charts, operators. This is now core knowledge, it's not advanced knowledge. Now for someone like me, because I work in professional services, it depends on my client requirements, what I'm actually using at the time. So that could be a Kubernetes service like EKS, but I could be working on ECS, or I still could be working on just normal 3-tier web applications with virtual machines. So for me, I'm kind of split across the whole spectrum of infrastructure, but some roles are just focused on Kubernetes. Now there is a reason why job descriptions have become a lot more specific and opinionated, which I mentioned a minute ago, and it's because of the shift to more platform engineering. Companies are building out internal developer platforms, it's standardized, it's self-service, and if you have a really good platform engineering function that operates well, they create a really good developer experience. Developers can then deploy software without really need to wondering how the underlying infrastructure works. And the people who build those platforms, who work in platform engineering teams, they need deep knowledge of Kubernetes, Terraform, CI/CD, because it's all wired together. So the role has kind of shifted a lot over the past few years in the cloud engineering area. It's gone from teams are just provisioning things in the cloud to build the platform that helps engineers ship in. So I think the practical advice here is kind of learn Docker and Kubernetes properly, not just, oh, I know how to deploy a pod. Actually understand how networking works inside of the cluster, how to configure resource limits, how to debug something when something isn't working, like checking the logs. And you can do this fairly simply yourself. You can set up your own local Minikube cluster on your home device, and you can break things on purpose. Like you can just say to Claude or ChatGPT, give me a broken application, show me how to deploy it on Minikube, and I want to try and fix it. Just a little side tip, make sure you install Cube Color though. It makes understanding logs so much easier when you can see it in color. CI/CD is another area that's involved. Like obviously CI/CD has been allowing for a very long time, like actually automating the delivery of software. Now most people would have on their CVs like yeah, I use GitHub Actions or I use GitLab. And that's still true. You need to understand those. But with the way AI has kind of come on board and code is being pushed out at such rapid rates, embedding cybersecurity practices into those CI/CD pipelines and shifting left has become more important than ever. So there are many tools out there. Like the one I kind of use quite a lot, which is open source, which you can use as well, is Trivy. And I use Trivy for container scanning. I use it for Terraform vulnerabilities. There are other tools as well that are open source, like Checkov for infrastructure as code policy checks. And there are paid tier tools as well, like Sneak and Wizcode. So this stuff isn't like optional anymore. Like back in the days, like companies weren't really hammering on devsecops as much as they are now. And devsecops isn't really just a buzzword, it's how pipelines are expected to run in 2026. So if your CI/CD pipeline on GitHub Actions doesn't have the right security guardrails in place, that's a gap. And you need to learn it like right now. So it's not a case of learning how to build and deploy. It's how to scan, test, engage, shift left security. It's what interviewers want to hear about. All right, so coming up to my next point. So remember at the beginning, I mentioned there's an entire area that barely existed on the cloud engineering roadmap 2 years ago. Well, this is it. It's AI and machine learning infrastructure. Now, but I do want to be really clear about something. I'm not saying every cloud engineer needs to become a machine learning engineer. And I'm not saying every cloud engineer is going to even be working on this type of work. But what's kind of happened now is that AI workloads are now running on the same cloud infrastructure that you and I manage. Companies are deploying models, they need GPU clusters provisioned, they need inference endpoints, they need model registries, they need data pipelines, and the people who set all of that up, cloud and platform engineers. And this has created a really interesting shift in how job roles are titled. Now, you will see a lot more job postings now that just have the title software engineer infrastructure or software infrastructure engineer. And this is opposed to having cloud engineer or DevOps engineer. Platform engineer is probably the more popular title nowadays. And that's not just like a branding change. I think it really does reflect the expectation that you can write proper code, not just scripts. Use AI to help you with that code. So companies want you building your own internal tools like Kubernetes operators, contributing to SDK. And as we kind of touched on earlier, that's going to be in Python or Go. So I think the line between infrastructure and software engineering is blurring, and personally I think that's a good thing. It makes the role more interesting and valuable. I think teams are going to become leaner and kind of join together. Now you may see the term MLOps attached to this. It's essentially DevOps principles assigned to machine learning workflows. Now I'm not asking you to understand the maths behind a transformer model, but you need to understand things like SageMaker. That's cloud infrastructure with AI workloads on top. Now my recommendation here is don't panic about AI. Seriously, I see a lot of anxiety, not just in technology, like across every job role in the world, like AI is going to replace cloud engineers, something like that. And I just don't think that is what's happening, especially right now anyway. I'm not saying it's not going to happen in the future. I think roles will change and shift and maybe become leaner. But like for the immediate future, what is really happening with AI is that it's creating so much infrastructure work, not less, like not in the slightly. Somebody needs to run the models. Somebody needs to manage the GPU clusters. Somebody needs to build the platforms that researchers and data scientists deploy to. That someone is you. If you're willing to learn how the pieces fit together, you will be rewarded. And there's other things like agentic AI. It's the latest thing you're going to be seeing everywhere. A lot of work with agents. They can take actions autonomously, chain together API calls, make decisions, and those agents are running on infrastructure. So the infrastructure underpinning AI, it still needs networking, it still needs security boundaries, it still needs compute. So as you think about it when it comes to roles sort of in the cloud engineering area, it becomes more important. It really does not become less important. So what I would say is add to your learning roadmap the basics of how machine learning models get deployed. And if you do want to go deeper, sure, you can go into like Kubeflow or MLflow and start understanding how it works on Kubernetes. It's going to make you much more versatile. Now, a quick section on certifications. I know people always ask, certifications do still matter. They're not going to get you a job on their own, but they demonstrate a baseline of knowledge, get you past those HR filters. And my recommendation really has not changed so much. AWS Solutions Architect Associate. Then after you've passed that, I would say your best starting point is probably maybe the DevOps professional or the security specialty. If you're going to go down the Kubernetes heavy route, then take a look at CKA, which is the Certified Kubernetes Administrator. That one is very well respected and is actually a hands-on technical exam simulating real-life environments, which is really good. Terraform Associate is It's still worth doing. It's really cheap as well. I've made a separate video on that if you want to go and check out the details. But the thing is, I really want to stress about when you're going into interviews, because this has changed meaningfully. In 2026, they're a lot more technical than they were 2 years ago. And I'm really seeing common patterns. And that is typically a Kubernetes practical. You might be given like a broken cluster that has misconfigured deployments. It has a Docker image that's incorrect or vulnerable. And they want to see you debug it live over 60 or 90 minutes. So using things like kubectl, reading logs, using Trivy to check for misconfigurations or vulnerabilities, all those different types of things. And the next thing that is sort of coming in is coding exercises. From people in my community and myself, like a lot more companies are asking you to write Python or maybe Golang live, or do like a take-home test on HackerRank. Now, it's not always leak code style. It's typically scenario based. Like you may have to do like a HTTP request or API calls, things like that, and add certain elements onto that script, maybe with a class. So things like write a script that does X with a tool that interacts with an API, parse some JSON, run a for loop, if else statements, etc. And there's been other people in my community that have mentioned they've done paired programming on Terraform. It is still around, but not as much as it used to be. And I think that's because it's just expected. You should know how to use Terraform. So if you are preparing for interviews, like don't study just flashcards anymore. So spin up a cluster and break things, write your own Python scripts. The more hands-on practice you do, the more comfortable you're going to get. And that is my 2026 Cloud Engineer roadmap. Now let's just recap on some of those key points quickly. The foundations really have not changed. It's Linux, networking, scripting, that's where you start. But scripting now means Python first, with Go as a serious second language. Tooling that you absolutely need to know, Terraform and Kubernetes and Docker. And remember that CI/CD pipelines has the whole DevSecops focus with shifting security left with tools like Trivy, Checkov, Sneak, or Wiz. And the new addition to the roadmap is AI and ML infrastructure. Not building models, but understanding how they actually get deployed and scaled. The role is definitely evolving. The titles are changing. But the core of what makes a good cloud engineer, like understanding systems deeply, automating things intelligently, and being the person who can fix things when they break, that hasn't changed. It's just got more interesting. Now, if you did find this useful, subscribing genuinely helps making me keep making these. I read every comment, so if you've got any questions, just chuck them down below. If you want me to go deeper on any other topics, just let me know down below. And if you want to see the original 2024 roadmap that goes quite more in depth to those other areas, I'll link it here so you can see how things have changed. All the best in your preparation, and once again, thanks for watching the video.